Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you the pickup truck memories coloring activity right here. As you see right here, is I would hand you right here an example right here of more likely what I look like. It is that I would be like what you call it's like you're wearing that type of shirt. It was I think a lot of times say in the back of a pickup truck it is. But anyway, but basically talking about with pickup truck memories right here is that of course my father of course used to drive one of those pickup trucks, and I can remember that a lot of times that, when we would go places together that we would the places that we would go to were, like you say, a variety of places, but I remember that he had of course enough room on the front, of course, to be able to seat another passenger. It was, but I remember a couple times that I asked him if I can ride in the back. It was, and since he had a pickup truck, that knowing about that a couple times that I would like to ride in the back of the pickup, just and anybody asks well, why did you? It's like the fact about that maybe that you may maybe you didn't want to distract him while he was driving, whichever it was. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about that you have right here is the pickup, and I could probably tell anybody that really with the pickup truck it was that knowing about that you have right here is me sitting right here in the back of a pickup truck, and I could probably tell anybody here that with riding in back of a pickup, I thought it would be pretty neat. It was, just that whenever I first experienced around with the riding back of the pickup truck, it was that with the anybody probably think about with the wind blowing on you, and of course that knowing about that while the person was driving, that you can actually get the feel, of course, of being behind the wheel. And if anybody would probably think about it, just like if you were to have like what you call it's like a moon roof, or it was if you were to be going for a ride and it had the moon roof open, you'll feel the wind blowing on you. And in a lot of ways, though, I seen the neighborhood kids, that they would have parents, who would drive a pickup truck. It was, and then there would be about maybe about 2 or 3 kids in the back. It was, and right in the back of a pickup truck, and a lot of times seemed like some places around the county, it is around the city, that back then, of course, they say that was allow but of course you had to be like 18 or older, of course, in order to be able to ride in the back of a truck. It was a back of a pickup truck. And knowing about with my father was is that whenever he got that pickup truck that he used to drive, it was that I can remember that it's like knowing about that he didn't mind where it's like I asked him if I could ride in the back. It's like because I like the wind blowing on me, and I could probably say tell anybody here that I think maybe that could have been maybe one of the reasons too why that I wanted to ride in the back, was the fact about that, not really about that like with anybody would probably think about, you would think in the front passenger side would be a lot more comfortable. You got a seat there, and it would be a lot more comfortable. It would be. It's like other than what you call sitting on metal. If you were to be riding the back of a pickup truck, there was some metal that you had to sit on, and anybody could probably think about that. If you get that feeling about sitting on a bench for quite a while, your behind goes numb. It is, your butt goes numb, and then but on the other hand too, that knowing about with me, that whenever I would ride in the back of a pickup truck, a lot of times I would hang on to the railing at about right here. So it was like that my father, of course, he would check up on me, but he would not say that you're not buckled up, because I know it's like I would at least hang on to the railing. A lot of times there would be railing on the back of a pickup truck, but I know with the laws back then, and I think that they got even laws nowadays to where that if you were to ride in the back of a pickup truck, it is that they got laws to where it's like you had to be at least 15 or older or something like that in order to be able to ride. And since I haven't really rode in the back of a pickup truck, in quite a while, I've known about what the rules are. But since there ain't no seatbelts, it is that depending on where you go too, that that there may be some areas, of course, maybe around town or wherever it is, that you would have it to where that you be able to ride in the back of a pickup truck and then that you'll go for a ride or whichever it was. But I can remember that my father and I, of course, that when we go places, that used to do it almost all the time, to where that whenever he would be driving, that just going places, and I would be riding in the back of the pickup truck, while he was in the driver's side, and knowing about that was just one thing I enjoyed doing. I guess I just mainly enjoyed enjoyed the ride, and then letting the air blow on you, and then of course that knowing about if we would have gotten maybe delayed in traffic a couple of times, that I would be able to get a good view, of course, of the traffic. And with anybody will probably think about like what kind of traffic it was, and I'll just say that it's like cars coming up to about this direction right here. It is that this was like what you call like a 2-lane road, be right on. But anyway, if you got head right here, maybe a car at about right here it was, and then if you had like what you call like a truck coming from this other direction it was. But anyway, cement truck, whichever it was. But talking about with memories, though, that I can remember that my father and I, we would go places with this truck it was, and then knowing about that he would let me ride in the back of his pickup truck, and anybody would probably think about that. It's like knowing about how safe it was, and knowing about with me though that I was like, well, it's that I enjoy it, and I guess with anybody would probably think about that I guess you're going to go ahead and ride them in the back of a pickup truck until you get pulled over by a police officer, and then they tell you that your child cannot ride in the back of a pickup truck. I remember that the first time that I was with my dad, of course, that with my father, that I can remember being pulled over by a pickup, and being pulled over, while I was in the back of a pickup, and then being pulled over by a police officer, and he went and told him, I'm like hey, he had his window down, and it's like, oh, your child has to be 17 or 15 or older in order to be able to ride in the back of a pickup. And I remember that it was at nighttime too, and while we were driving, there was a police car that had their lights on, and I was like, what now? And then by the time we pulled over, like, and because a couple of times that you see it on one of those insurance commercials. I'm sure anybody knows what I'm talking about, like in your Roddy DeYoung, the Roddy DeYoung, commercial. But you have it, to where if somebody had a cop, right behind them, it was, let's say on the tail end, it was that knowing about that they would be driving, and all of a sudden the police officer would be right behind them, like, please pull off, please, oh please. And it's like, don't pull me over, officer. But on the other hand too, that I could also think about is like that with the police officer that may not like the idea of the fact about that he, after he pulled us over, that had to ride in the passenger side on the inside, say the pickup. And if I can remember right, that ever since that time, ever since that last time, from whenever we were pulled over by a police officer, for riding in the back of a pickup truck, it was that I can remember that it was like haven't rode him back there since then. And with anybody, any parents or uncles or aunts, whoever, if they're going to have a pickup truck, then the more likely that it's possible that there may be a rule, a law, one of these days, to where that they say that the kid has to be over the age of 13, just to ride in the back of a pickup truck. And a lot of times, it's like, at the time, people will probably think about, don't like that rule, but I guess the rules are the rules, and I guess that basically, I would probably say that it basically means that that would say the child safety, that more or less, like with most pickup trucks, that they don't have no seatbelts in the back. That more likely it's dangerous, of course, that if there was an automobile accident that occurred somewhere, then that no source of protection. And I would probably think about that that yeah, that that there has been a couple of stories to where that that we would be going places with my father. It's knowing about that the places around town that we would be going to, and a lot of times be riding in the back of a pickup, and I used to think that it was pretty fun because being able to look at the traffic, and then allowing the wind to blow on you. I think one of the reasons maybe why I like riding in the back of a pickup truck, not really the fact about that knowing about my father, of course, is like whenever I'll be riding with him, maybe he's he would like to maybe had the front seat to himself, and I could just ride in the back or whatever you call it. But anyway, that anybody can maybe think about if they used to like to ride in the back seat, to say in the back of a pickup truck, or the very back maybe of a minivan, whichever it is, of knowing about. I guess we all have our stories about how we liked riding in a luxury vehicle it is. And with anybody, we'll probably think about with the pickup truck, though, that with a pickup truck, it was not very safe. Of course, it's like anybody probably think, but if there ain't no seatbelts, of course, in the back, then there's a chance that knowing about that I don't have no extra protection. It is, and know about with me that a lot of times whenever I would be riding inside of a vehicle, a lot of times it was like that. Yeah, I'm good on putting on a seatbelt, and then a lot of times good on locking the doors too. And that's just the thing about me, though, that a lot of times that I got in the habit to where that I would lock the door behind my back. It was like talk about after I would close the door, just I would lock it, because anybody would probably think about that. You have some vehicles to where that you'll be driving in them, especially if they're not if you weren't the driver of that vehicle, and next thing you know, at the things like remind you, lock the door, and there are some doors nowadays to where that they have it to where they lock by themselves. It is, so you say key remote transmitter. It is, but on the other hand too, with some vehicles that the car, of course, I drive, of course, it don't have one of those transmitter, and of course I gotta check all four doors just to make sure that they're locked. But on the other hand too, with the pickup truck that used to ride in, is knowing about if this was me right here, and knowing about with anybody probably think about with you that on the other hand chance that if it was raining, if there was a chance if it would have been raining, did your father bother to pull over just to make sure you were alright? I'm like, yeah. He asked me if I was alright, and like with anybody that knowing about what is my story to maybe why I like riding in the back of a pickup truck, it was, and knowing about enjoying the wind blowing on you. I enjoyed the wind blowing on me whenever I was sitting in the back of a pickup. And like with anybody would probably think about with in back of a pickup truck, I'm like, you're talking about that you don't really have no soft seats back there. With anybody would probably think about that with like the vehicles back in maybe the 1970s and 1980s, a few of them that had real comfortable seats it was, but knowing about in the back of a pickup truck, there ain't no seatbelts back there. And on the other hand too, that knowing about that it's you're talking about with most benches it is that they had to set up sit out right out next to the mall, whichever it is in the park. And knowing about a lot of the benches, of course, that they had set up at a lot of times it was the park or recreation center or wherever outside, that a lot of times it don't really have a very comfortable spots to sit at. And knowing about that hey, that why do you even like sitting in the back of a pickup truck? It is, and I could probably tell anybody here that I used to like it. Likely letting the wind blow on you, and then on your hand too, that knowing about that that with me though that that allowing to where that I can get a good clear view, of course, of the roads, because I remember that I used to like to look at the traffic, and there was neighborhood kids, of course, that had parents that had a pickup truck, and well, I'm thinking about, hey, that's something more likely I would like to experience one of these days. But other than that, it's like knowing about the number of counts it is, and knowing about, it's like with the pickup truck memories it is. It's like pickup trucks it is, knowing about the reason to why maybe I wanted to ride was the fact about that, hey, that knowing about that this is just enjoy the ride, and then knowing about it's I talk about for the safe drive. Other than that, I talk about the story for the pickup truck memories.